A massive shadow loomed over the entirety of Alien Demon City. Everyone stared in horror at the gigantic figure in the sky. The name of the heavenly demon mink was indeed well-deserved. Its enormous size was truly awe-inspiring, as if it could devour the sun and moon. Moreover, everyone could feel Little Mink's aura growing even stronger as its body swelled. That level of power was now on par with any of the three great sect leaders of the Yuan sect. Burning the clan mark. That's the heavenly demon mink's life-saving technique. Although it temporarily restored his strength, he'll likely suffer severe backlash later, said the elder in the blue robe, his gaze sharpening as he looked at the colossal shadow in the sky. Still, even if he's regained his strength, there's no way he can take on all three of them. Tian Yuanzi and the others are revolution stage powerhouses. Ren Yuanzi's voice trembled as his hand clenched involuntarily. His expression was conflicted. In the sky, the purple-black energy had coalesced into dense clouds that swirled around Little Mink's enormous form, shrouding him in a misty haze. You might want to kill one of us, but even if you burn your clan mark, you won't succeed, Tian Yuanzi said, eyeing the ominous clouds above with a hint of seriousness, though he quickly shook his head. Then let's try. Little Mink's sharp voice boomed from the sky. In the next instant, the clouds churned violently, forming a massive purple-black crescent moon, 1,000 feet wide, suspended in the sky. A terrifying energy radiated from it, striking fear into all who witnessed it. Demonic moon wheel. A gigantic purple-black claw pierced through the clouds, seizing the crescent moon. Without any hesitation, the moon spun downward, tearing through the air as it slashed toward Tian Yuanzi and the other two with furious intensity. Boom! The crescent moon roared across the sky, spanning thousands of feet. Below in Alien Demon City, a massive fissure appeared in the ground. The sheer destructive power of the moon was staggering. Humph! Ren Yuanzi snorted coldly as he watched. With a wave of his sleeve, the power of life and death surged forth, forming a massive black and white disk above him, resembling the union of yin and yang. The life and death disk had barely formed when the moon collided with it, the impact echoing like a meteor crashing down. Boom! The tremendous sound reverberated through the sky. A vast energy wave, thousands of feet wide, rippled out like a raging tide, shattering the space around it. Dark cracks spread through the sky, like gaping mouths of demons. Under the force of the collision, the life and death disk was sent flying backward, and Ren Yuanzi staggered back 2 steps, his expression darkening. With a swift movement, he appeared atop the retreating disk, merging with it to form a black and white beam of light, which shot toward Little Mink once more. Boom! 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 Terrifying waves of energy continued to ripple through the sky as the massive moon wheel relentlessly attacked Ren Yuanzi. Meanwhile, shockwaves from the battle reached Tian Yuanzi and D Yuanzi as well, making it clear that Little Mink was determined to fight all three. It's been years since I've fought. If you want to play, I'll play with you. Tian Yuanzi and D Yuanzi exchanged glances, cold gleams flashing in their eyes as they both laughed coldly. Together, they charged into the fray. Boom! As Tian Yuanzi and D Yuanzi joined the fight, the purple-black clouds in the sky began to collapse at an alarming rate. Little Mink's enormous form was forced to retreat continuously, clearly struggling to hold his own against the three. He's actually fighting all 3 Yuan sect leaders alone? From a distant pavilion, Ling Qingzhu gazed at the earth-shaking battle in the sky, her usually serene face betraying a rare hint of emotion. Even she found it hard to stay calm today. The heavenly demon mink truly lives up to its reputation as a tyrant of the demonic beast world. The elegant woman beside her nodded in awe. If it were a one-on-one battle, perhaps he wouldn't fear the 3 sect leaders of the Yuan sect. But facing all 3 at once is reckless. Regardless, once word of this battle spreads, the entire Eastern Mystery region will be in an uproar. That young man Lin Dong, he's no ordinary person. With only the strength of the 8th Nirvana stage, he's stirred up such a storm. But with this, the Yuan sect won't let him off easily. Hearing this, Su Ro's small hands clenched tightly. Her eyes reddened, but after a moment's hesitation, she spoke with determination, Big Brother Lin Dong won't die here. Even though she understood the dire situation Lin Dong was in, she stubbornly believed that the one who had continuously created miracles wouldn't fall at the hands of the Yuan sect. Ling Qingzhu looked at Su Ro, whose eyes were filled with unwavering resolve. After a moment, a mesmerizing smile seemed to appear beneath the veil that covered her face. She gave a slight nod. His ambitions run deep. Until he fulfills them, perhaps no one will be able to kill him. You too. The elegant woman shook her head helplessly as she glanced at the two girls. This time, it wasn't just anyone going after Lin Dong. It was the three sect leaders of the Yuan sect, some of the most powerful figures in the Eastern Mystery region. He knows he can't defeat Tian Yuanzi and the other two. Why does he keep fighting? The elder in the blue robe furrowed his brows slightly. His gaze slowly swept over the dark purple clouds that loomed above the sky. After a moment, his eyes narrowed as he fixed his attention on a specific spot behind Little Mink. There, a peculiar fluctuation faintly emanated from within the purple-black clouds. He's not intending to fight Tian Yuanzi and the others to the death. The elder's eyes flickered as he spoke suddenly. He's preparing for something? Upon hearing this, EngSubs' gaze also sharpened. He noticed the unremarkable purple-black cloud as well, and his hand clenched abruptly. That's the fluctuation of spatial teleportation. He's trying to take Lin Dong and the others away. Yes, if he really fights to the end, he might manage to kill one of the Yuan sect's three leaders. But in that case, Lin Dong and the others would have no chance of survival. The elder nodded slightly. He's deliberately engaging Tian Yuanzi and the others to cover the spatial teleportation from being noticed. Let's hope he succeeds. EngSubs' grip tightened further. It was clear that he also didn't want Lin Dong to perish here. Boom. A sound like thunder suddenly exploded in the sky. Little Mink's enormous figure swiftly retreated. In a flash of light, he reverted to human form, his expression dark as he glared at Tian Yuanzi and the other two in the distance. With a wave of his sleeve, purple-black energy surged forth, enveloping Lin Dong and Little Yin as they were swiftly drawn into the purple-black clouds. Buzz. As the three entered the clouds, the light there rapidly dissipated. The clouds scattered, revealing a twisted spatial formation. Spatial teleportation? The faces of Tian Yuanzi and his two companions changed drastically as they witnessed this. I'm controlling the formation. We can't stay in the Eastern Mystery region any longer. Little Mink's hands rapidly formed seals, causing the twisted spatial formation to spin faster and faster. Violent spatial fluctuations erupted madly. Lin Dong's face turned pale as he watched the grim, cold expression on Little Mink's face. He could feel Little Mink's aura fading rapidly and realized that the sudden surge of power earlier was already beginning to wane. Once it completely faded, they would lose all hope of escape. Trying to leave? It won't be that easy. Tian Yuanzi and his companions sneered as they attacked in unison. Boundless energy tore through the sky, aiming to destroy the spatial formation. If the attack landed, Little Mink's painstakingly constructed teleportation would surely be obliterated. Damn it! Little Mink's eyes turned bloodshot as he stared at the incoming attacks. With his focus on controlling the formation, he couldn't spare the energy to fend off the three assailants. I'll stop them. Little Yin, now in the form of a black tiger, let out a low growl and shot forward like a streak of black light, intent on blocking the attacks with his life. Bang! However, just as he was about to leave the formation, a figure darted past him, delivering a swift kick that sent him back into the formation. The figure then used the momentum of the kick to propel itself out. Big Brother! Both Little Yin and Little Mink were momentarily stunned as they watched the figure shoot out, but their eyes soon turned blood-red. Lin Dong hovered in the sky, his gaze locked onto the terrifying assault bearing down on him. Even though the attack had not yet landed, the oppressive force had already caused the space around him to warp. The combined strike of the three Yuan sect leaders was powerful enough to annihilate him completely. Although Lin Dong knew his resistance was futile, he didn't hesitate. The formation still needed time, and someone had to step forward to buy it. Without such a sacrifice, none of them would survive. Buzz. A brilliant array of light suddenly spread from Lin Dong's palm. His mouth opened, and a crimson glow shot out, transforming into a red cauldron that enveloped him protectively. Whoosh! A beam of light imbued with the power of disintegration shot out, hurtling toward the overwhelming attack. Under the watchful eyes of the onlookers, the light beam collided heavily with the formidable strike. Although the disintegration power was extraordinary, it was no match for the combined assault of the three sect leaders. The difference was like that between an ant and a towering mountain. The beam lasted only a moment before it was utterly shattered. Boom! As the beam disintegrated, the terrifying attack slammed into the red cauldron with a sharp, ringing sound that echoed through the sky. The impact sent crimson ripples spreading out rapidly. In the next instant, the onlookers saw the light surrounding the red cauldron quickly dim. Then, with a swish, it transformed into a beam of light and returned to Lin Dong's body. The furnace cauldron was damaged, and Lin Dong, connected to it, spat out a mouthful of blood. His already pale face grew even more ashen. Clearly, even with the protection of such a powerful treasure, it was impossible for Lin Dong to withstand the attack of the three sect leaders. Blood sprayed from his mouth, and before he could retreat, he suddenly sensed the surrounding space solidify. A terrifying force seeped through the space, completely enveloping him. Creak! Under the crushing force, Lin Dong's body twisted almost instantly. Blood poured from his pores, and he looked as if he was about to be crushed into pulp. The intense pain surged through Lin Dong's body, and even his iron will couldn't stop him from letting out low, agonized roars. Blood continued to flow, covering him entirely, making him look like a blood-soaked figure. In the distance, Yuan and his companions watched this scene with cold, emotionless expressions, their eyes devoid of pity. Back in the formation, both Little Yin and Little Mink's eyes turned bloodshot. Little Yin, in his black tiger form, let out a heart-wrenching howl filled with deep hatred. Boom! Waves of excruciating pain violently assaulted Lin Dong's heart. He could feel that even with his current physical toughness, he was now truly tasting the scent of death. This attack had far surpassed the limits of what his body could endure. He could hear the faint cracking of his bones. His vision began to blur as blood seeped into his eyes, while an overwhelming sense of weakness and helplessness surged through his heart. Am I really going to die here? A faint murmur echoed in Lin Dong's mind, as his consciousness gradually began to fade. Buzz. But just as his mind was about to completely shut down, the heavenly dragon aura within his energy core suddenly exploded. The force burst out and swiftly spread throughout his body, surging into his twisted meridians and shattered bones at a startling speed. Roar! Wave after wave of heavenly dragon aura continuously merged into Lin Dong's body. Normally, this energy was so domineering that even Lin Dong could only absorb it in tiny amounts. But now, under the terrifying external pressure, it actively flooded into his body, strengthening him and shielding him from the crushing force. Suddenly, brilliant azure light erupted from Lin Dong's body. Then, to everyone's shock, his body began to swell and wriggle. In the next moment, with a burst of azure light, a thunderous dragon roar reverberated through the air. As the roar echoed, an enormous azure dragon tens of meters long appeared, its body radiating a potent dragon might, a fearsome presence that only high-level dragon beings from the dragon clan could possess. Though the heavenly dragon aura was not as pure as the real thing, the force it exuded was undeniably genuine. What kind of martial art has this kid been cultivating to transform into such a pure dragon form? Yuan muttered as he observed the scene, his brow furrowing slightly. Still, no matter what tricks you have up your sleeve, there's no other path for you under this onslaught. A cold gleam flashed in Yuan's eyes. The more brilliantly Lin Dong performed, the stronger his killing intent grew. Today's humiliation had surely made Lin Dong hate the Yuan sect to the core. If he were allowed to escape, with his talent, he would surely become an even greater threat than Zhou Tong in the future. And by then, even the Yuan sect might have to start worrying. The azure dragon coiled within the azure light, its scales gleaming with a frenzied light as it struggled to hold on against the overwhelming force. In this desperate moment, the explosion of the heavenly dragon aura had once again strengthened the sky-transforming dragon art that Lin Dong practiced. His body was now able to fully transform into a dragon form, far surpassing its previous strength. Bang! Bang! Yet, even so, it was clear that Lin Dong still lacked the power to truly withstand the attack. Faced with the terrifying force ripping through space, the dragon form of Lin Dong was forced to retreat, with its scales exploding one by one. In just a matter of seconds, the Azure Dragon was already covered in fresh wounds. But even so, everyone within Alien Demon City was left in stunned silence. Many gazes turned heavy as they stared at the Azure Dragon. It was beyond comprehension that someone at the 8th Nirvana stage could last so long against the attacks of the 3 great sect leaders from the Yuan sect. Even if they weren't using their full strength, the gap between their statuses was like night and day. If this kid doesn't die today, the Yuan sect will face disaster in the future. Those with sharp insight exchanged serious looks. Based on Lin Dong's savage resilience, if he were given time, he might surpass even Zhou Tong, the prodigy who had shaken the Eastern Mystery region a century ago. Zhou Tong had once stormed the Yuan sect alone, killing 3 elders. If Lin Dong survived today, what would he be capable of in the future? Just the thought of that scenario was enough to make many feel chills down their spines. Boom, boom. And if they could imagine it, the 3 great sect leaders of the Yuan sect could certainly imagine it as well. A faint cold light flickered deep in their eyes. Though they hadn't attacked again, the power pressing down on Lin Dong was intensifying in secret. Bang! A burst of blood erupted from the Azure Dragon's body as scales flew off, and the light in the dragon's eyes dimmed. Boom! Yet another wave of terrifying force seeped through space, crashing down viciously on the Azure Dragon. From afar, EngSubs watched the scene, his fists clenching tightly as he growled, "Elder Tai, follow me. We're stepping in. I'm getting him out of here." The blue-robed elder was momentarily stunned by the order, but then silently nodded. Boom! A vast power surged out from EngSubs and Elder Tai, tearing through space. Just as the fearsome force was about to strike the Azure Dragon, they shattered it. Their sudden intervention caused an uproar throughout the sky. EngSubs, what do you think you're doing? Yuan roared in fury. Enough is enough, Yuan. You're taking this too far. EngSubs snapped back coldly. If we don't root him out completely, do you think the Yuan sect would be so soft-hearted? After Zhou Tong, we won't allow a second time. Yuan frowned and said, "You too, hold them off while I destroy their formation." Understood. Yuan and the others nodded immediately. As the voice fell, the 3 of them took a sudden step forward. Yuan and Duan immediately sprang into action, blocking EngSubs and his companion. Yuan, with a cold expression, directed his gaze at Lin Dong. His palm clenched, summoning a massive black beam, thousands of feet wide, brimming with the power of life and death, which shot forth with a violent surge. It was clear that Yuan was no longer holding back. He intended to annihilate Lin Dong and his companions in one blow. Rumbling, the beam, piercing through the heavens, shot toward Lin Dong and the others with terrifying speed. The space around it shattered into pieces. Lin Dong, now in the form of an Azure Dragon, retreated back into the formation, while little Mink, with reddened eyes, frantically activated the array, attempting to teleport them away before the attack landed. But the beam moved too fast, reaching the sky above the formation in a flash. Just a little more, just a bit more. Little Mink's face contorted, growling in frustration as the space around them twisted, and beams of light began converging on the trio. "Himph, think you can escape?" Yuan's cold snort echoed as the beams gathered around them, and the black light surged toward them. Boom! Just as the beam was about to strike the formation, a massive rift, tens of thousands of feet long, tore open in the sky. Through it, an enormous Azure Dragon claw descended, covering almost the entire alien demon city. In a shocking display, it gripped the 1,000-foot beam and crushed it to dust. The sudden intervention left everyone stunned, even Lin Dong and his companions, who were bewildered by this unexpected aid. Lin Dong quickly recognized the familiar power emanating from the dragon's claw, sky-transforming dragon art. "Qing Ji," he murmured, astonished that their savior was none other than the Azure Dragon King, Qing Ji, whom they had encountered in the ancient space. "It's him," little Mink was equally surprised. They had only met an image of Qing Ji before, speculating that this ancient powerhouse might still be alive. But they hadn't anticipated that he would actually come to their rescue. In alien demon city, countless eyes gaped in disbelief at the massive dragon claw that had ripped through the space above. What kind of person was Lin Dong to attract such powerful allies? "What formidable power!" the blue-robed elder observed, his face grave. "The one who intervened must be at the reincarnation stage." The fluctuations from that dragon claw resemble Lin Dong's sky-transforming dragon art, indicating some connection between them. However, it seems that this person is far from the Eastern Mystery region. Although powerful, the strength that descends through a torn space might not be enough to stop the three of them, the elder continued. He doesn't intend to fight them. He merely wishes to aid their escape. EngSubs, eye-sharp, nodded. With a protector like that, Lin Dong is indeed fortunate. "It's a relief for us as well." Watching EngSubs' relieved smile, the blue-robed elder nodded as well, understanding that Lin Dong and his companions might finally escape. "Who are you?" Yuan and the others, their faces darkening, glared at the enormous dragon claw that had emerged from the rift. It was unimaginable to them that an insignificant youth at the 8th Nirvana stage could continually stir up such trouble. Heh, 3 sect leaders going after a youngster with such ruthlessness. Isn't that a bit narrow-minded? A calm, clear voice laughed from within the vast rift, echoing across the heavens. "Though I'm unsure of your identity, no one can prevent the 3 of us from succeeding today." Yuan's gaze turned cold as he observed the space around Lin Dong, where the lights of impending teleportation grew stronger. If he didn't act now, the 3 would indeed escape. His face hardened, and the 3 of them moved as one, surging forward. Boom, boom. A torrent of life and death energy spread out, coalescing into a massive black and white wheel. With a piercing whistling sound, it shot directly at the dragon claw. Rumble. The wheel collided fiercely with the claw, causing a shudder that shook the heavens. Both the wheel and the claw began to disintegrate under the impact. Yuan, with a sudden flash of murderous intent, tore through the space and appeared behind the dragon claw, his icy gaze fixed on Lin Dong and his companions within the formation. Just as Yuan dodged the dragon-shaped palm and prepared to strike at Lin Dong and the other 2, a green streak of light suddenly shot out from the rift in the sky, heading straight for him. Humph! Yuan noticed the incoming attack. His eyes flickered, but he showed no intention of dodging. Instead, he thrust his 2 fingers out, sending a terrifying force that pierced through the void and struck the formation. Boom! At the moment Yuan hit the formation, the green light viciously slammed into him, sending him flying. He stumbled hundreds of steps in midair before barely regaining his balance. Despite this, a cold smile surfaced on his face. "I've disrupted your formation. If you attempt to move recklessly, you'll be courting death. Lin Dong, I told you. No one can save you this time." Upon hearing Yuan's words, EngSubs and the Dao Sect disciples' faces turned pale. They glanced toward the formation surrounding Lin Dong and saw it flickering erratically, waves of chaotic energy rippling outward. "That damned old geezer." Little Mink's face darkened as he looked at the erratic beams of spatial light around them, cursing angrily. He knew that Qing Ji's ability to tear through space wouldn't last long. If they halted the formation now, they'd definitely fall into the hands of the Yuan sect. "What should we do?" Little Mink turned to Lin Dong, his voice filled with urgency. "Keep pushing the formation." Lin Dong gritted his teeth and ordered. Little Mink nodded heavily, his voice cold and fast. "The formation's unstable. I have no idea where it'll send us. Lin Dong, Little Yin, if we get separated, come find me in the demon realm, at the celestial demon Mink clan." Lord Mink will gather the troops and storm the Yuan sect with you. All right. Lin Dong's eyes were bloodshot as he nodded. Today, he and his two brothers had been driven to the brink like cornered animals. There was no way they could let this humiliation go unavenged. Go! As they spoke, the beams of spatial light surrounding them intensified to their limit. Soon after, their bodies began to distort. Boom! Little Mink's figure exploded first within the light, dissolving into silver radiance before vanishing into the twisted space. Then little Yin disappeared in the same way. Everyone present watched the scene unfold, knowing that although Lin Dong and his brothers were aware of the grave danger of the unstable teleportation, they still chose to leave. This sight only added a sense of tragedy and helplessness to the air. The three of them, forced by the Yuan sect's overwhelming pressure, had no choice but to flee in humiliation. Countless eyes were now fixed on the last figure about to vanish. They saw that the young man's crimson gaze was locked onto Yuan and his group. Then, a low, beast-like growl echoed throughout the heavens and earth. Old dogs of the Yuan sect, this humiliation you forced upon my brothers today, I, Lin Dong, will remember. Mark my words, when the three of us return to the Eastern Mystery Region, it will be the day your Yuan sect meets its end. The day of your destruction. These 4 words, laden with boundless hatred, echoed in everyone's ears, reverberating relentlessly. Boom! As his words faded, Lin Dong's body exploded into the space-warping light, and he vanished from sight. All that remained was his hate-filled growl, which rumbled through the heavens, leaving a long, eerie silence in its wake. Yuan and his 2 companions stood in silence, their expressions dark as they stared at the spot where the 3 had disappeared. Although they knew the teleportation was almost certain to be deadly, a small seed of unease had taken root deep in their hearts. The seeds planted today would one day be repaid in blood. Above them, the twisted space slowly began to close. The chaotic spatial energy that had filled the area started to dissipate, as did the figures of Lin Dong and his brothers. Yet even though they were gone, the countless gazes in Alien Demon City remained fixed on that spot. The shocking battle they had just witnessed still reverberated in their minds, filling them with awe. No one had expected that the day's events would spiral out of control due to a mere Dao sect disciple at the 8th Nirvana stage. Not only had the 3 great sect leaders of the Yuan sect and Dao sect made appearances, but a mysterious and terrifying powerhouse had also intervened. These powerful figures, who were rarely seen, had all revealed themselves today because of Lin Dong. And what was most astonishing was that even with the Yuan sect's 3 great sect leaders taking action, Lin Dong and his brothers had still managed to escape. His parting words, although seemingly laughable, left no one smiling. After all, anyone with sense could see the terrifying potential in a young man capable of escaping from the hands of the Yuan sect's 3 great sect leaders. Such a person, if allowed to escape, would undoubtedly grow into a deadly threat. When Lin Dong returned to the Eastern Mystery Region in the future, the Yuan sect might indeed have to pay a devastating price for their actions today. Years ago, Zhou Tong had already disgraced the Yuan sect. Now, this youth named Lin Dong was proving to be an even greater thorn in their side. What was worse, Lin Dong had managed to escape from the 3 great sect leaders, something even Zhou Tong hadn't achieved. In some ways, Lin Dong posed an even greater danger than Zhou Tong. Haha, that little fellow won't die so easily. To think he could cultivate the sky-transforming dragon art to this level in just over a year. He hasn't tarnished my name after all. Haha, I'm curious to see just how far he'll go when he returns to the Eastern Mystery Region. High in the sky, the enormous spatial rift slowly closed. Who exactly are you? Yuan asked coldly, his face dark as he gazed at the closing space rift. Haha, we'll have a chance to meet someday. When that time comes, I'd like to cross paths with you 3 in person. That young one has inherited my legacy. After all, if I weren't so far away today, I wouldn't have let you 3 have your way so easily. The cheerful laughter echoed, fading as the space rift gradually disappeared. Along with the rift, the booming laughter also vanished completely. Yuan and the other 2 looked on, their expressions dark. Today's events hadn't been resolved as they'd hoped. Instead, they'd left behind a catastrophe and further damaged Yuan Sect's prestige. Leader, the teleportation formation has been destroyed. Those three are exhausted and likely won't survive the spatial distortion. I'd say their chances are slim to none. Dong, noticing Tianyuanzi's grim face, couldn't help but chuckle sycophantically. What I want is not slim to none. That boy is no ordinary person. If he survives, he'll be a disaster. Tianyuanzi cast him a cold glance. Send word, place a bounty on Lin Dong and his companions. Not just here in the Eastern Mystery region, but in other regions as well. Anyone who provides information will have their pick of our Yuan Sect's martial arts. Understood. Dong's face stiffened, a hint of fear flickering in his eyes as he nodded repeatedly. I want to see just how long this boy can survive. Ren Yuanzi's silver hair flowed as he spoke, his icy gaze chilling to the bone. Their voices carried, stirring up a wave of astonishment among those nearby. Clearly, the Yuan Sect's bounty was highly tempting. Amid the hushed murmurs, a young girl dressed in black slowly emerged. Her strikingly beautiful face was pale, her eyes filled with a cold, penetrating hatred as she stared at the three sect leaders. Qing Tan. Seeing her, Chen Gue hurried forward protectively, placing himself in front of her. If I ever get the chance, I'll see to it that Yuan Sect is obliterated. Under countless gazes, the black-clad girl fixed her stare on the three, her voice icy, filled with boundless resentment, and echoing across the sky. It seems you have a close connection to that boy as well. In that case, Dong, seize her. Ren Yuanzi ordered impatiently, a frown crossing his face.
Yes.
Dong nodded and sprang toward Qing Tan, sneering. So you don't know your place, girl. At a time like this, you should have kept to yourself. And yet, here you are, brazenly associating with that boy. Chen Gui's face turned grim, preparing to pull Qing Tan back, but she broke free, standing resolute in the air as Dong's attack closed in. Qing Tan. Chen Gui shouted, his face paling. Just as Dong came within a few feet, the space above Qing Tan's head suddenly split open. A dark beam shot forth, crashing into Dong and sending him hurtling to the ground in a spray of blood. The crowd gasped, momentarily stunned. This wasn't over yet? This power. Tianyuanzi's eyes narrowed, and he stared at the fissure. Lord of the Dark Hall? Tianyuanzi, it took me centuries to find such a perfect disciple. If she suffers even a scratch, your Yuan Sect can expect nothing less than a declaration of war from my Dark Hall. A raspy voice drifted from the rift as dark light poured forth, coalescing into an elderly man clad in a black robe, a dark crown atop his head. The old man hovered in the sky, and as he appeared, the very heavens grew dim, every bit of light vanishing around him, replaced by an abyssal darkness. That's the Lord of the Dark Hall from the Northern Mystery region, Bo Xian. His appearance immediately caused a wave of shock among those present, as his name was clearly well known. So, she's your disciple. Had we known, we'd have acted differently. It seems we were rash. Tianyuanzi's eyes tightened as he smiled coldly. Though Bo Xian was also at the revolution stage, he wielded the dark ancestral talisman, making him a formidable opponent. Even Tianyuanzi was wary of him. Bo Xian responded with a faint, knowing smile before turning to the young girl behind him. Are you coming back with me? You were here. Why didn't you intervene? Qing Tan's eyes locked onto Bo Xian's, her voice trembling. Your elder brother has incredible potential and wields the devouring ancestral talisman. He is destined for greatness, and today's ordeal will strengthen him. The Dao sect may be stable, but it would dull his edge. Only the vast world beyond can contain him. Bo Xian chuckled. Qing Tan clenched her fists tightly. Then send me to the Dark Tribunal when we return. You're certain? I've said it before, in this life, I will flatten the Yuan sect. Qing Tan's gaze once again shifted towards Tianyuanzi and the others in the distance, her voice becoming unusually gentle. The expressions on Tianyuanzi and his two companions darkened slightly. When you become the Lord of the Dark Hall, you'll be the new ruler. No one will be able to stand in the way of your desires, Not even me, Bo Xian said, gently ruffling the girl's hair. Thank you, master. The coldness in the girl's eyes finally gave way to a trace of warmth, and she replied softly, Let's go. Time to head back with your master. Bo Xian smiled and nodded, waving his sleeve. A dark rift appeared beside him, and a black light enveloped Qing Tan and Chan Kue. Without paying any attention to the others, their figures disappeared into the rift. I didn't expect that little girl to be Bo Xian's prized disciple. The old man in the blue robe sighed softly as he gazed at the vanishing rift. For her to enter the Dark Tribunal, it seems there's a strong possibility she'll become the Lord of the Dark Hall in the future. Yuan's sect has really stirred up quite a bit of trouble this time. EngSubs nodded slightly, a hint of sadness in his eyes. Although today's outcome wasn't the worst, it was far from ideal for them. After all, Lin Dong had still been forced to leave. EngShao glanced at EngSubs' face and sighed. Lowering her head, she saw the young girl in her arms had opened her eyes at some point. You're awake? EngShao asked, concerned. However, the girl's originally lively and beautiful eyes now seemed somewhat vacant. It was a while before she slowly nodded. He's gone? Hearing the ethereal-like voice of EngShuan, EngShao could only nod, forcing a smile. But he should be fine. That guy's always had remarkable luck. EngShuan silently nodded, glanced briefly at EngSubs, and then turned her gaze away. If he dies, I'll avenge him. The young girl turned and was the first to leave, her long, waterfall-like hair flowing behind her. Under the sunlight, the tips of her strands faintly glimmered with an icy blue hue. EngSubs watched her slender figure depart alone, his face dimming. The disappointment in her eyes when she had looked at him earlier lingered in his mind. Did I truly make a mistake? EngSubs muttered bitterly to himself. His once handsome face now seemed aged, having sacrificed so much for the sect. His most cherished disciple had been killed by the Yuan sect, and he couldn't exact revenge. Now, even his own daughter was so disappointed in him. Father, Huan's just in a bit of a mood. She'll come around soon, EngShao said, her heart heavy as she tried to comfort him. EngSubs shook his head bitterly, but quickly steadied his emotions, as was his nature. Send someone to the Great Yin Dynasty, inform the Lin family of what's happened, and assign someone to protect Lin Dong's relatives. Understood, EngShao nodded. Let's go, back to the sect. EngSubs forced another smile. Without lingering further, he waved his hand and turned to leave. The Dao sect disciples, equally silent, followed behind him. So it ends like this? On a pavilion within alien demon city, a beautiful woman looked at the gradually dispersing figures in the sky and sighed softly. What had transpired today would surely spread throughout the Eastern Mystery region soon. When that happened, the name Lin Dong would be known to everyone. He'll come back? A soft voice suddenly rang out beside her. Startled, the woman turned to look at Ling Qingzhu, who was standing there. Ling Qingzhu removed the thin veil from her face, revealing a stunning beauty, her smile captivating. He will come back, and when he does, the Yuan sect will regret everything they did today. She knew all too well the terrifying resilience and determination that young man possessed. From a humble dynasty, he had climbed his way to the Eastern Mystery region. What he had endured along the way, no one could imagine. Ling Qingzhu gazed at the place where Lin Dong had disappeared, her lips pressing together slightly, her eyes deep and brilliant. When you return to the Eastern Mystery region, you will come back as a king. And when that time comes, if I were to truly be your woman, what would it matter? Lin Dong, live well, and then,